Hey, Falcon.
Hey, yo. Did you watch the Gamescom demo? Because I think it was uploaded by a few news.
We watched the combat for like the 4 bosses they put out. There's like four gameplay videos from 4 different bosses. I guess those were the 4 bosses that was at Gamescom, right? Playable.
Pretty much, you had a tutorial in the beginning, which was more. The bosses didn't let you utilize a few things, like we've seen in some trailers, like you can throw people around and all that stuff, and you can only use that on normal mobs. Which you could do in the tutorial, which was pretty fun.
How does it feel like doing that? Is it there's like special actions for it, or is it like you have a grab and then does a random thing, or can like force a specific throwing and all that?
The combat is incredibly deep. It was took a while to figure out correctly because they really they forced us to play on controllers, although it was on PC. Where the key mapping on controller is not bad inherently, but it's just so much. They really tried hard to make everything work on controller, and you can see that everything on the controller has some combination that is used for skills and combos, because there's just so much in it.
Damn. I guess it's gonna be really nice on mouse and keyboard then.
Yes, on mouse and keyboard it's definitely gonna be.
Yeah, so just to get it out of the way on the question, it's going to be crossplay. Do you know if it is?
I mean, there won't be, as far as I know. I mean, it's not. It's a single player, so it's if there are online features.
Oh yeah. Of course. I mean, I mean, that is going to be both like on console and PC. Of course.
Yeah.
Actually,
okay. It's gonna be for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC.
Yeah, good. That's nice. Yeah, it's about Crimson as well.
Yeah. The overall, a big issue that they actually did have was a lot of issues they had were because of controller. Funnily enough, which is good because they got a lot of feedback this way. For instance, they didn't have the major thing that I got that I told them was they didn't have an autolock feature for controller. So if you had a lot of enemies in the tutorial, it was so bad because some boss attacks are pretty dangerous. So the game focuses the camera on them. But if you had to kill some smaller enemies, it would just take the camera away from them.
Oh, okay.
And obviously we couldn't adjust it. That
doesn't sound like good. Surely that's something they can figure out though.
Yeah.
And how was it like in the like the danger of fighting the bosses? Like in the videos they posted, it was obviously like like boss account or like a GM account. It felt like so they never really looked like they took a lot of damage even when they got hit. Like how did that feel? Like because you said like
obviously it was. I mean, even though it was relatively easy once you get used to it, because most people only played it once. It was very difficult for a lot of them. Overall, you had different each boss, because they had a different time in the story, gave you a different amount of stamina and HP, or rather spirit, which is essentially just your BSR, I would guess.
Yep.
So it did get some, like Reed Devil. Probably people probably had the most issues with Reed Devil. The Stonebag Crab was the actual hardest, but not because it was hard. Rather because there was a bug with the controls. Essentially, you have to, like when you have to sling to destroy the vase on top.
Yeah.
You couldn't move, like you're supposed to move closer, but on half of the PCs it didn't work correctly, and no matter what you pressed, you would instantly hit the ground. Because there was a bug for it. But that was already fixed, but only on half of the PCs, because the version was different on some machines.
Yeah, to have like if I remember correctly, I experienced this a bit when we did the TwitchCon last year, where they were like introducing boss bros that like this offline version, and they couldn't really like update them because it was like an offline client they were playing on.
Yeah, for Gamescom it's the same. It was specifically a demo made for Black Desert for Gamescom, which is smart if you consider that there have been a lot of instances in the past where people just stole copies.
So I got a question from Sahad. Was it only sword and shield playstyle?
No, it wasn't. It was still a bit janky because some stuff was early in development. If you went outside, like in the Staglord fight, there were a lot of bosses.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had stuff lying around on the ground as well, but you could, from the crates, you could get drops, mostly food and sometimes weapons. And also, there were a few equipment pieces hidden around. The main gameplay that they had, of course, was Sword and Shield. And it's always technically the shield, but there are different weapon types. There were Zweihänder, like the biggest sword. Some of them didn't have skill. They didn't have skills yet because you have Turning Slash, which is a skill, and then you have Flurry Slash. Some of them didn't have skills yet or not a fully done attack pattern. A lot of them didn't have walking animations specifically, so if you walked with them, they you did need to put the weapon away. But that's just the development. But some of them did already have mapped out attacks, like the two-hander specifically was had heavy attacks, normal attacks. Also, you could block with it. You had 3 type of axes. You had a woodcutter axe, that, like a little small axe that you could, with heavy attack, you'd throw it and could collect it again. The normal attack was just swing, swing, swing. You had a normal axe, which was essentially the same, just the heavy attack was bigger, and then you had a what do you call them? A great axe, like one of these things that have an axe on both sides.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like a double-sided axes.
Yes.
Yeah. OG dwarven axe, right? Okay.
Not like a dwarf one though. It was still pretty big.
Oh, yeah, like a big one. Yeah, but like the dwarves always swinging those around. I feel like. But yeah, like
exactly.
war axe. That's probably what it was called.
Yeah. You also had a dagger, but you didn't get to use that one, sadly. Essentially, how it works is you have a secondary and a main weapon. It's very similar to Witcher.
Yep.
And a few things, like when you use BSR specifically, like Spirit Bomb. There's a few when you use that, you always go into an unequipped weapon stance. That was pretty funny because it reminded me a lot about BDO in the beginning, when you start playing Awakening and you didn't really figure out what stance am I in? Is my weapon put away? Or like, I had the same issue at the beginning. That was hard to figure out.
I still end up in the wrong stance from time to time. Standing there doing jump thrust on shift enemy, trying to gravedigger. It's like, I guess I'll just die.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, like on that note, do you know if there's like classes you choose, or is it just all down to weapons? Like in The Witcher, I'm guessing you're just playing as The Witcher, and then you have probably different playstyles you can do with different weapons. And is it like that, or can you choose like classes, or did they talk about that?
It was really hard to get information out of them. That was not from the demo.
I did
get a few things though. Specifically for classes, I talked a bit, and they didn't give me a concise answer, because we do know that you can play as one of the companions, which was shown in the 2019 review trailer, which is the Rutum, aka what the fuck is his name?
Yeah, the orc thingy, right? The Rutum. Yeah.
Now we don't know. Essentially, you will play as Cliff, which is the main white guy.
Yeah. Okay.
But there might be some story missions where you play as them, or it's simply that, or maybe from the beginning you can already choose it, but that's something they did not disclose to me.
Okay, so we don't know if even if you're playing as this character Cliff or The Witcher in the Witcher games, right? Or then you might be able to make your own type of character. So potentially you can make still a caster or something like a mage. Do we know anything about magic for the game?
I would assume the game is heavily weapon focused, but I did ask them, and the direct quote I got from one of the developers was, "That is still a secret."
Okay.
So there will probably be something in that direction, but I very highly doubt it's the main focus of it.
Okay, that's an interesting way of phrasing it, right? So okay, like I'm gonna copium on that one and say that definitely sounds like there will be potentially some magic builds available when it comes out. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like when they have the BDO combat to take abilities from and animations and all, holy man, there's a plethora of stuff they can take, like from Sage and Wizard and Sorks and all that, like just mix it in. That would be crazy good. That would be so cool.
I do wonder how much they wanted to be Magic inspired, based on every trailer we've seen being mostly not melee because there's a bow, but rather mostly
mundane weapons,
medieval combat, you know. But there are dragons and such, so I wonder how much humans are gonna, or just the main inhabitants of the world, are actually able to utilize magic, since there's not much that we've seen.
But also, like, at least have the fire explosions animations down, so it would be almost a shame not to utilize that for something else, you know.
Yeah, they did have 3 types of arrows in the demo: ice arrows, normal arrows, and explosive arrows. And because I do a lot of glitching and stuff in any game, including BDO, the first 3 times I went through playing, or rather 4, I just did each boss each time and then trained the other ones for a while because the demo was only 30 minutes. And at the 5th one, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try to go out of bounds because I love doing stuff like this, and I don't trust devs to ever. You can always find.
No, that's always a way. That's always a way.
And it was so easy. I was so shocked.
The probably expecting people to not even attempt. It's like, oh, we gotta kill a boss. We got 30 minutes. Boom.
Yeah, essentially, the if you get hit by an explosion, or you essentially away. Have you ever played Lost Ark?
No.
Essentially, there's just a stand up. Like when you're CC'd, you can press the dodge, and it will just do like a faster version, so you don't have to stand up off the ground. Those 2 things, the explosion and the dash, lets you go through invisible wall. Go through the invisible wall. So you just shoot an explosive arrow and it would push you through the wall, and then you just shoot another one and you'd be through.
Nice. Okay. So what did you find?
Of course, there were no NPCs or mobs around. It's essentially like how BDO was just an instance, specifically also because it was a specific demo for Gamescom, but the map was fucking huge. It's insanely huge.
Okay.
And it was not empty. It was not how it's like in BDO sometimes. So it's like, oh, the desert, oh, there's nearly nothing in it. No, it was the plains of Pywell, which is the name of the world, were full. It was a lot more, quite literally, depth, because there were a lot more what do you call that? Like in the mountains, there were a lot more valleys and such.
So how did, like, since you play BDO, like, and you kind of know, like, with the character size compared to the map size and all that, like, how would it compare in size to the BDO world? Like, just
probably
physical...
main continent, the entirety of the main continent, like everything.
The entirety.
Yeah. Like from
including
Parma
Valencia?
to Valencia. Yeah. It's not. It's and more round-ish.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say that.
And you're telling me it's not empty like the Valencian, so that's actually like something that is probably gonna have things there.
No, you have a lot of there's enemy camps and villages and towns everywhere. It is a very big focus of the game, which I love, because they essentially just they made everything that is great in BDO and improved it in Crimson Desert with obviously the experience they've made. For instance, a thing that most people find very memorable about BDO, and that is very exclusive to it as well, is that it really feels like a world. If I go to Valencia and I look to the east, to the west, I can see the Great Shere Khan statue in Regan, stuff like this, and that is pushed to 500% in Crimson Desert. You can look to the entire world. You go on a mountain, you see everything, and it looks beautiful.
Damn. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's nice.
Also, the performance was really good. Like in the trailer for the original trailer they released was so bad. You saw it so many.
Yeah, it was like low FPS, clunky and all that. Look good, like beautiful, but yeah, it definitely didn't seem optimized at all.
Yeah, but the demo ran smooth. I didn't have a stutter once. Always clean, 145 FPS. It was. Even when looking at the entirety of the world. Of course, NPCs are not going to be rendered from 500 meters.
Yeah, like we were talking about that when we were watching the demos as well. It's like, wait, the view distance is huge here, and there's no pop-in or anything. It feels like.
Yeah, there was nothing like that.
Wow. So it is a problem that can be solved, just not for BDO.
Yes, I mean that's what I mean, right? They improved a lot of the aspects of BDO, which they can do since it's a new, an
updated
entirely
engine,
new game, and the engine is optimized for it. And BDO is just a lot of the issues we have in BDO from that standpoint is just because the game is old. If they remade BDO, we'd have the same thing.
Yeah. Oh my god.
That's just how it is with MMOs.
I don't know if there's anyone in chat that has any questions to Falcon. We're talking about the Crimson Desert. And he's probably the guy that right now knows the most about the game outside of the devs. So if you guys have any questions that you're curious about Crimson Desert, then you can ask away. And I don't know if there's some old stuff. More than one class. So yeah, I guess you can talk quickly about the classes again, Falcon. Like what your experience was.
You do have one main character that you play as. They didn't really talk about other classes, but we do know from one of the trailers at least that you can play as one of the companions. So I assume the 4 companions that you have, well, 3 companions that you have, will be playable to some degree, be through specific quests or just in general. But it does seem like Cliff is the main character as such. But since it's a very, from like how the story was put together, from the few things that I saw, it might just be that, like how it is in a book, where the perspective of characters changes sometimes. Like how The Witcher does it with Ciri and Geralt very often. I would imagine it is like that.
Alright, so again, like more like fixed characters, or then you make your own character and play it. So you're playing like an actual specific type character,
Yes.
but then you have like the companions and it might change around. Which would then also go into a question about gender. I'm guessing you have like, you play that dude, so you can't like customize your own character.
Honestly, I assume you can. They didn't specify it, but it's such a minor change to the game that it doesn't really, like, you change gender terms and translations, and that's it. It's like there's no other change. You can change the gender if there's nothing.
Yeah, no, I guess like if like they made a specific kind of story with other characters you meet along the way, and it's like this, then maybe they would want it to be like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Alright. Do you have magic skills in the game? Match rank keys?
There were no magic skills shown. The devs did say that it's something they don't want to reveal yet, so
Yeah,
there
like
might be
the quote was
stuff
pretty
like
good.
it. But
Yeah.
even stuff like the, it's not really a grapple, it's more like a sling that you get, is also, it's a spider web. It's not really something magic, well, there's probably some magic involved in that, but it's more on the non-magic side with explosive arrows, frozen arrows.
Yeah.
And the like, magic is always involved to some degree, but it's not something that you
Yeah, I guess
use
like,
actively in the demo at least.
No, yeah, and then to go back for the question, Falcon asked one of the devs, and they said, I think I'll quote it correctly here, that is still a secret when asked about magic. So if there wasn't any, they could probably said no, but like the phrasing of it, that is still a secret. It kind of indicates there's probably gonna be some magic. Also, you have like frost arrows. That's magic, right? On a mundane weapon. So there'll probably be some. But I guess like in terms of one of the things that is the big question for me is like how the characters. But there's no definitive answer if it's like you play as a like named character, or if you can make your own character like in a character creator and then play like that, and then the story changes your name or whatnot, right? I guess there's no real definitive
I would
answer on that.
assume it is exactly like The Witcher, and you just play a very specific character, because the dialogue we've seen was written in a way that wouldn't really work if it was a nameless character.
The name was that? It was voice acted, wasn't it as well?
Yes, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they mentioned the name, but it is like I'm somebody who reads quite a lot. Knows a lot about the story and stuff. So it really didn't feel like it was meant to be. You were meant to be a nameless character.
But yeah, like just again the code with me. If it's not the actual name is not voice acted, but to just say like, oh, it's you again, or like, oh, it's you, and then it's like say the name, then it could just change that depending on what you name your character. And then it wouldn't have to like have different voice lines. But if the actual name is voice acted, then it's probably gonna be a locked character name.
You also have your own character, like Cliff, has a lot of dialogue. It is, you speak a lot.
Ah, okay.
And it's okay. That's what I mean.
Yeah, then okay, it's probably gonna be like The Witcher then, where you have like
Yes.
these named characters that you play, and then you have the like the companions that are probably coded in as well, and you have situations where you can play those. Should be yeah. I don't know if there's any other questions.
Yeah, I saw a few. I'm just gonna talk about them. Like Karisawa specifically, it's
Oh,
not
yeah,
a
yeah.
whole new engine. It is a strongly modified version of the BDO engine, which is also something It is their own engine. So when I talked about them, the engine, well, the demo that I played showed that they have a pretty big. They have some problems with momentum and velocity calculations. It is very easy to transfer velocity from other things. When in the Stormback Crab, when you sling, you essentially just backflip, and then you activate the Black Spirit thingy, and then you destroy the base. That backflip transfers momentum. If you get hit by the crab while in that backflip, you fly away. It's really funny. But
Okay.
that is not the only thing. It's you have a bullet time when you shoot arrows
Yeah, that was so
that
cool.
you can activate.
That was
If
so
you
cool.
go underwater with that, the
Yeah.
game obviously instantly tries to force you up again. That momentum can also be transferred. It's just a general thing that I told them, and their response was, "Yeah, it's our own engine. We can fix that pretty easily."
That's super cool. There was one question here was really cool. Life skilling, weapon crafting, or weapon upgrading. Like, does this game have enhancing? Do you upgrade weapons, or do you just find a weapon that's like that? And then of course a bit of crafting.
It does have crafting. Two things that I did find behind the Stag Lord is a little stove cooking. No, not really stove. It's like a little campfire that you can cook in. Obviously, there were no crafting recipes acquired, but you saw the UI and everything in the top right in Korean. It said recipe. There was also, while I was exploring other bounds, was one village where you could find a smithering station, which was for crafting. So those are the two things that are most likely going to be possible.
Cooking and crafting.
Every weapon has specific stats. You have obviously crit rate, general strength, and a few other things, but it feels more like it's supposed to be that you can craft them or find them. When you defeat the Stag Lord, for instance, you get a better sword and a better shield. But I highly doubt enhancing will be a part of it. It will most likely just be you find better weapons or you craft them yourself. With how many resources you also can find. All the ores in the Stoneback Crab fight can be, well, most of them can be destroyed, and you gain these specific ores, diamond, rubies, copper.
So
also
if there's like weapon upgrading, it's probably going to be you get X amount of resources, and then you can upgrade the weapon, but it's like a guarantee. It's probably not BDO enhancing with throwing clicks at it and praying to RNGesus, like, oh, I got lucky, now I can one-shot every mob in the game, right? We're not expecting that.
Yeah, probably not. Maybe just some making the blade a bit sharper.
Yeah. Did you get to fly around on mounts or plummet through the air as with Rag Ghost, like the trailer showed?
I assume with the Rag Ghost you mean the
Black Spirit thing you turn into.
Crow's Cloak or something. Yeah, you did get to use that. It's essentially just a gliding thing. That is the main way you
item or
move if you're in
skill?
the air.
Is that an item or skill?
It's a skill. You just use it when you're in the air. I assume it's locked to story progression, but in the demo you always had it. You can use the grapple, the sling from it. The sling is a bit weird because it doesn't give you upwards momentum. It is used usually in the Stoneback Crab. You can use it to fling around, and how you use it if you're in the air is essentially you point to something and you fling yourself, but not to it. You rather use the momentum to go forward. So when you glide through the air, use the spider web on something nearby, and it just boosts you to it, but not down, just in the direction. And with that, you can go pretty far in the air, and also doesn't consume stamina, so you can just glide a long time. And with how deep some canyons are in the map, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember watching that. I was like, wait, is that a thing? Actually,
yeah, there was no
Spider-Man.
mounts, sadly, but there were no mounts in the demo, at least, which obviously made the it took quite a while to explore some of the parts of the map because you just had to run. But if you use the gliding correctly, you could still go pretty far in the world.
So no new information about mounts other than what we've seen in the trailer with the horse.
No,
stuff, right?
No mounts. Sadly, there was nothing in the world about that. There was a lot of interactables in the world, though. Obviously, there were chests with specific items, also crafting items. In one of the chests, I just found pepper for cooking.
Yeah.
So you could eat it for 20 health. Or like, it was probably just for cooking. But also, a lot of stuff was interactable. There were these watchtowers that we've seen in the trailer, and you could just use skills to destroy the base of it, and they would just collapse. In general, the entire game has a lot of interactable things. Tree fall down. You can destroy little things on the way. Like,
yeah, I was just about to ask, like, how much of the world is like interactable in terms of destroying it, like those towers? Can you like set fire to the city, or is it the? is there limits to it?
You had no way to burn things specifically in the demo. But a lot of attacks destroy things, be it walls, trees, or other stuff. It wasn't as free as you'd want it. Like in a forest, you couldn't just chop down the whole thing. They're very specific things, but there's a lot of them. Like I said, the watchtowers, you can just destroy the base and it will collapse. But it's not the main things. They did it smartly. It's not like you can just destroy a village. You can destroy everything around the village. Right?
Yeah, you just know somebody's gonna make the entire world barren.
Yeah, but it feels very alive. Random trees falling down sometimes, but they hit you, they break, and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's also
that's kind of fun. It's kind of, so you have to potentially watch out for environmental damage whenever you're out fighting and boss fights and all that.
Yeah, the temperature, there's a temperature meter, which we've already seen as well. They still need to do a lot of work on that. And the Stormbay crab, it's like 51 degrees.
Okay.
And if you stand in the shade, it goes down a bit.
Yeah.
But the general mechanic is fun. In the Whitehorn fight, for instance, it's so cold that you take very little damage every now and then. It really is an amount that you don't care about, but it still is there. But it's the thing still heavily breaks in combination with fire and explosives. If you go into the cooking station, it's 99 degrees. If you are in fire, it's 999 degrees.
Oh yes, so, about that, like it's like environmental interaction. Let's say that you have like a tree and you shoot a fire arrow on it, will then burn, and can that do damage? Or like, is there, for example, like I'm thinking like Baldur's Gate and Divinity, right? You can have oil on the ground, you can light that on fire. Can you use the elements in any way, or was that just not something that you could do in the demo?
The explosive arrows put you and other people on fire, and they just take damage over time, but it wasn't environmental.
No, okay.
There was nothing for that.
Alright. What about story?
I talked a bit about the devs in that regard. Sadly, most of the devs that were there were, obviously because it was a combat-focused demos, they were more on that part, so they couldn't answer a lot of my questions. But a few things they could, specifically a lot of obviously the demos from specific story texts. Yeah. The Reed Devil, for instance, is apparently the end of the first story act, since the Reed Devil is apparently a character that repeats itself, that is just part of the story quite a lot. Based on the Reed Devil fight being the first of the first act, you could assume that the other bosses are before that, since the Reed Devil has the most resources available to it. But that might also just be a
so like all of the bosses here is part of like Act 1 in the game?
It could be. Maybe the Reed Devil is also the hardest because it is a boss that constantly... It's a ninja. Hey, I can't put it any other way. I was talking about one of the PA meetings. And he constantly TPs, and you have to use CCs. You can't just put your head against the wall.
You can't just super armor trade.
No, you can't. He has riposts and everything. That bitch, I had so much struggle. I struggled so much against him.
Okay. Do we know how many acts there are?
How many what?
Acts, like if this was Act 1,
sorry.
the first story, or
No,
part
nothing,
1?
nothing of that sort. They're still working on that anyway. It's
Okay. So,
they are not concerned with a time frame for release. Let's put it like that.
Oh, okay, okay. I'd rather have a good game than a worse game, right?
That is true. And considering how big the map already is, they really are. They really want you to have a lot of content to explore. They want it to be a good game before it releases, and they have the resources to just not give a shit about when to release.
Yeah, this is where all the custom money goes, boys.
Yeah.
I wonder where those resources are coming from.
Those Fortnite dances, they at least paid for one story act. You know how it is.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Well, we need some weapon glow soon. Sovereign weapon glow in the pole shop. Let's go.
Oh, maybe they can afford a few more bosses with that.
Yeah. How would you say, like, in terms of, I'm assuming you could see on the world map where you were. So the 4 bosses, like, how big part of the world map did that take place in?
It's probably like one of the boss areas would probably be comparable to Gamov's Nest.
No, I mean, like, let's say, like, if you, let's say you have, like, the 4 bosses, right? So let's say it was, one boss was over here, and then the other boss was here at Luckier Farm, and then one down here.
Oh, you mean how far they were located from each other?
Yeah, exactly. So, like, how big of a part of the world map did the bosses, like, take up? In just to get, like, a rough idea about how much of the entire world that journey, that story journey, would be. That makes sense.
Oh yeah, the Staglord and Whitehorn were both in snow areas. So they were on the more northern part, not completely northern, but like 70%. Those two were pretty close to each other. I would say like the comparison would be between Velia and Calphion. Reed Devil was in the Canyon Desert, more Canyon Desert area. I was pretty far away in the west, as far as I know, southwest. And then what's the last one? Stoneback Crab was in the general forest areas. I don't exactly remember where on the map it was, but it was pretty far away.
Okay, so it was like over a pretty large area that these bosses were spread out.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
I don't know if there's anything else you've written down.
Oh yeah, lots though. I didn't really go through any of my notes yet. This is just freestyling.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Can you always just climb onto enemies, or do you have to drop their health to a certain point? Depends. It depends what you mean with climbing. You can, if you jump in combat, you essentially just kick upwards on their chest. If you do it once, you jump behind them. If you do it twice, you jump over. Use them as a pedestal to just jump upwards. You can use that pretty well in combos. What you can in the Reed Devil fight, for instance, you can kick twice, jump on the top, and let yourself fall a bit, and then use the kick to CC him again so he doesn't hit the ground. There's a lot of combo depth to it with the CCs, which of course some bosses like Whitehorn, big fucking Yeti, can't CC that guy. So then it's just about dodging. But each boss taught you about a different mechanic in the game. Staglord was all about protections and CC, because certain skills have a certain let's just say every skill has a certain CC and a certain CC priority. So let's say one of your skills has a CC of 2 and a protection of 1. If that skill hits something with a protection of 2 or lower, then it will CC the enemy out of that attack. However, the same goes for you.
Okay.
And that adds a lot of depth to the fights.
Okay, so
against
it's
this.
Yeah, so like it's, I guess, not at all similar to protections and CCs in BDO, whereas like front guards and super armors. Now it's like priority, so you can use different abilities to counter other abilities.
Pretty much. This also changes very fast. It's essentially something you have to learn on the fly. For the Staglord, for instance, he does his charge. This starts in phase 1 of the fight. You can just use most CC, so if you can counter it, you can shield bash it. You can just use one of your A skills and trade them. However, in stage 2 of the fight, and phase 2 of the fight, he gets a higher priority on it, so now not everything works anymore. And stage 3, nothing works against anymore, and you have to dodge.
Oh, okay.
The thing that was also really fun was also something that I only really got into after like 5 or 6 hours. The dodging is not very efficient. If you double tap dodge, you essentially sidestep a bit, and that is insane because because it costs less stamina, and the game is all about stamina management. It's about CC priorities and stamina management, because the only real way you get stamina is by waiting and block, or just being idle, or by using the stand-up that I talked about. The stand-up also consumes your BSR meter though. You can use it without BSR, but you kind of want to have it, so if you get hit a lot, you lose out on a lot of potential combo damage, because the BSR lets you essentially CC people out of nearly everything. Like that phase 3 charge from Stagload, you can only CC him with a palm, with the BSR.
Okay, so you don't want to waste that.
Yeah, a thing that maybe only a few people also noticed was also you could use the spirit, aka BSR, for a slow-mo time, not with the bow in general. Now, the thing with that is, if you had enough, you could enter a zone like that, essentially. It would stay for a while like that, and in that phase, you would have a special turning slash. It was a BSR version. It even had the extra particles for it and everything.
Okay.
With lighting effects and everything. That was really cool. But I also didn't find out about that. The devs just, one of the devs just told me about it once. I was like, holy.
Okay, that's like a lot of depth to this.
There's a lot of depth, yeah. And that's also only one weapon, right?
Yeah.
It's just the sword and shield. For some stuff, you obviously can't have this shield equipped. When you have a Zweihander, you can block with the weapon itself.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of work to be done in that regard. It was not very...
Listen, there's two-handed swords. I mean, I'm happy. That's all I needed to know about class. Then everything else is like, yeah, whatever.
A bigger sword.
Nice.
A thing that I asked them that they couldn't tell me too much about, sadly, was knowledge. There is a knowledge system in the game, similar to BDO, when you collect stuff for the first time and stuff. What I did, it was mostly for resources and stuff, but also for enemies.
Yeah.
So what I did ask them is how the story development will vary, not development, how the storytelling, the narration compared to BDO will change, because BDO is very unique in its approach to storytelling.
Yes.
And that being that knowledge is required for the narrative. And required to an absurd level. If you do not reach knowledge entries, you will never understand more than 30% of the story.
Yeah.
And that is a big hurdle for people coming into the story of BDO. But for Crimson Desert, who focuses more on a stronger narrative, will it be required for people to read these entries, or will they simply add flavor and retell your experiences just as a reminder?
Yeah, that is a big question.
Sadly, they were not able to tell me that because there was no people on the narrative team. But I did also tell them, if you make a knowledge UI, please don't use BDOs.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. Okay. You thank God for the feedback. Yeah, it's one of the things right now. I started playing a bit of the War Within here the last week or so, the last couple of days, and like the way you get the information on the main quest line, like you do these missions, and then you get like a cutscene, you get told stuff, and you feel like you're part of it, and you're constantly getting the lore and information explained to you while playing it. It's just so stark a contrast to like old school BDO questing and lore, where like, yeah, like if you want to look out and find additional nice little tidbits and all that, you can do it, but to understand like what's going on and everything, you just play the game and it gets presented to you.
Another thing that I asked them was if there would be a difficulty setting, which they said there will not be. It will be one difficulty.
Okay. Hopefully it's gonna be difficult. I don't know if they talked to that about like potentially grinding out levels in different parts of the areas, or taking a break from
there was
like
no
the questing to work on gear to make a boss easier so you can
anything.
progress, or if you can outskill it all.
I don't think that will be the case at all. There was basically no level system at all. You could get temporary stats from food and stuff. A lot of the stats. I mean, it's just more crafting based, right? You want to have resources and everything. It's not. They don't want to trivialize it by just leveling up. I assume it's more that you gain more resources and HP and everything through various story means instead of leveling up. But that might also still just change.
It's just that that could be a bad thing as well, because if it's too easy, like one of the things that makes Elden Ring, right, so amazing and rewarding is that it's really hard. And they just go with that. Listen, it's hard. If you want to do it, you can do it. If you want to try and then like level up and make it easier, work on stuff, come back, you can do that later. You can do it how you want to. But the fact that a lot of these fights are super hard makes it so rewarding and feel good when you beat them. But if you're trying to then make a game again, then you have to make a decision that, well, if you can't do it, you can't do it. It's not our problem, right? If they're trying to balance it so everyone can complete it and do it, then yeah, I mean, that might make it trivial, right, for a lot of people that like the challenge. So, like, finding that sort of balance, I don't know if you have any idea how they're planning on.
I don't really know. I think the major difficulties will come more from, I mean, like I said, you have to adapt during the fight to specific mechanics changing to, you just need to know the ins and outs of yourself. It's just, you play as a class, basically, like in BDO, and if you know how to play your class, it will still be well, you will have to use everything you have and do it correctly. But is that really a difficulty? But is it also not fun? If you grind a spot that has the potential to kill you if you fuck up, like let's just say Crypt 2 years ago, you can grind it, but it still has a difficulty, it still has a chance to kill you if you make mistakes.
Yeah.
But if you don't make mistakes, it's not that it's trivialized, because making mistakes will most likely happen, or it takes a lot of effort to not make mistakes. But is it hard if you do everything? Is something difficult if you don't die, if you do everything right? Yeah. That is the point of skill expression, and that is.
Yeah, I think that's probably what people would be looking for, as long as there is like the skills. Do you need to learn how to play a class? Like, is there a lot of level, like, just because there's a lot of depth in the combat system, if you're not required to use the depth, then it's kind of like irrelevant still.
Yeah, in general, it felt very balanced. If you didn't use bullet time was insanely broken. Because you could shoot, how it works is you shoot in bullet time, you could use spirit to shoot multiple arrows at once, and there is you can obviously crit, like if you get a headshot, and you could just shoot 7 arrows at once into an enemy and all headshots, and it would deal so much damage. That must just be.
Dude, I love that. I love when you can like find out like some cool ways of using stuff to like beat hard bosses, or like different ways of doing things. That's cool. That's cool. But yeah, like you're talking about like just I know some people like worried about like, oh, maybe it's gonna be too easy or not. Like you talked about the depth of the combat system being huge, and again, you were only playing with a few weapons that was coded yet, so it's gonna be a lot of different weapons. Maybe we'll see different weapons working better against different bosses, and then you might need to learn multiple kits and abilities and their CCs and protection priorities, etc., etc. So I probably wouldn't be too worried about the game being easy mode to deal with. And if you look at just like the mechanics of these bosses that were shown, like sure it looked easy enough when you don't really risk dying, because it seemed like that a lot of gear, right? But there's still a lot of different mechanics going on, and this is the like first part of the story, like Act 1 only. So this is like the first couple of bosses, right? Basically.
Most likely, yeah. They will probably be through a while. Reed Devil will definitely. I mean, Reed Devil is the difficulty comes from the fact that you need to do proper CC combos, and that is just. It really reminded me, like in PA, when you first try to do a grab combo, and like, oh, but when do I do the right CC when he's on the ground? And it was very similar to that.
That's dope.
Especially on controller, it was a bit weird. They had the same. They had a little help UI in the bottom right, like Monster Hunter does essentially. But it wasn't perfect because they didn't copy Monster Hunter to the full degree. Because in Monster Hunter you have the colors for the buttons.
Yeah.
Which makes it easier for your brain to think what is the right one, because color is easier. And also it was in the bottom right. which your field of view needs to be way bigger to see it then, because the map is top left and the HP is top right. So stuff like that. But that is feedback they received.
Yeah.
Especially also that it was white black, so in the Yeti fight your eyes would just not perceive it anymore.
Yeah. Oh.
So it would melt them with the background.
Well, hopefully they'll listen to the feedback.
Yeah, they got a lot of feedback and they were very excited about that as well.
That's good. That's good.
The biggest grudge outside of the very obvious ones was also they had a big problem with a lot of the visual effects were unintuitive. Not that there was too much, but they were placed in a way that made sense for a developer, but not for a player.
Okay.
For
Do you have an
instance,
example?
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
For the Stoneback crab, for instance, the fight requires you to use Spirit, so the BSR. So when you're close to the crab, you regen it. However, this regen was basically an invisible aura around the crab. How this aura showed was that when you were in range of it, there were little green particles flowing around you. It took me 4 hours and a developer telling me to realize that was the case.
Okay.
Because you would not realize it, because for a developer it's like, oh, the player gets a buff, the buff is around them. For a player, my character is my character, I look at the boss. Because I don't need to see my character, I know what it does.
Yeah, exactly.
The danger comes from enemies. So that was one of the unintuitive things. Because people would just not realize that.
No.
So I thought to just make it like an aura on the crab that shows and it makes an aura around it, or redesign
you're
the
right.
fight.
You're
So
looking
you
at that, right?
crystals.
You're not going to be looking too much at the character. It's like whenever you have a perfume on, you don't pay attention to everything that. It's like somebody, oh wait, what is that aura? It's like, oh wait, oh right, I have an aura on. I totally forgot. Right? You're looking at the game, not
Another thing was that one of your skills, flurry slash, it's like you dash and forward and then slash 3 times. The last slash of this made your screen flash black-white. It was the exact same one that in every single game is used either if you take fatal damage or you just die. So every single person that played this was just, did I just take damage in my skill?
Okay. Okay. So visual clarity definitely needed. God.
Yeah, definitely. That is a feedback they got a lot for that. Some inputs were a bit hard, but that was a controller issue. Like the timing specifically for one of the skills, like the one where you reflect the light on your blade to stun an enemy. That one you had to tap both of them at the same time at an absurd speed. Because if you press them for a tiny bit too long, it would instantly go into a combo. Yeah. And since you had to use that skill reactively, that was really difficult.
It looks like it's about time for me, Fulcon, but thank you so much for jumping on and sharing the info and answering the questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Really cool, dude. I appreciate it. Guys, go check out Fulcon. Can you link, like, I know you have a YouTube channel where you do a lot of lore things as well and story stuff. Yeah, sure. Guys, go check out his YouTube. Awesome dude. You just spam it in chat. I'll be sure.
I hope I won't get insta banned.
Nah, oh yeah, dude. It's fine. I got it here. Guys, go give him a slap. Go check him out. And Fulcon, thank you so much for jumping in here. I'm not gonna lie, I'm super excited. I guess it's gonna be very much like the Witcher style game. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I'm looking forward to seeing more about it. But thank you so much for tuning in, man. What a amazing day. I had so much fun. I'll see you all tomorrow.